Good morning, YouTubers, and welcome once again to the southern wing of the Stink Bug Works, that super secret research and development division of Dr. Jet Laboratories. Today, you are going to be subjected to yet another unedited, unrehearsed, unscripted, unwarranted, Edward D. Wood class video. Anyway, we're doing a little, post-run maintenance on the RedBird here, and one of the problems I was having is it would chine walk a lot, and quite frankly, the best way to get rid of chine walk is to have a thin, sharp propeller. Now, the propeller I was running at the time was a Gropner K29, K meaning the pitch is 1.4 and 29 millimeter diameter. I was planning on running an S29, which is 1.6 pitch and same 29 millimeter diameter. But I may go over to Steve at OSE and get a CNC machined 30 millimeter prop in a 1.4. So it'd be a little bit more diameter than this. And remember, temperatures were not an issue with this. So a little bit more diameter it could handle. And being CNC machined, it might be a little smoother and more predictable than this. But I have to admit, these Gropner props are pretty nice. You compare the thickness of the aluminum prop to the Gropner prop. The Gropner prop, I don't know if you can see this, but the Gropner prop is thinner than this aluminum prop. Now, Big B has discovered why the aluminum props are thicker. Aluminum is not as strong as steel. So to get the strength, you need more material, and so they're thicker. And interesting, let's talk about Big B's breaking CNC props. And they broke exactly where you would expect them to break if they were, being asked to do more than they could handle. And what happens is the tip breaks off where it's no longer supported on the hub, and that's the portion of the blade that's pushing the hardest on the water, and it's the least supported, and it's like I'm taking this blade right here and trying to go, except, this is water. But that's exactly what's happening. You put that much power into this cast aluminum, and so cast aluminum is going to have this grainy structure, and it doesn't have a lot of tensile strength. And so I'm doing this, boom, it's going to snap right there, and so it's not Big B's fault, it's not the prop's fault, it's just that's all it's designed to handle, So for those kind of power settings, you got to go with something stronger. This just won't make it. Anyway, I wanted to show you this. Now, I remarked the other day that this thing didn't have a drop of water in it. And sealing a ball-bearing solid shaft is not always easy. So I'll tell you what I do. Now, first of all, let's talk about the shaft. There's a ball bearing up here in this end, and then there's a sleeve of this size. This is 4 millimeter. This is 5 millimeter, so there's a 4 millimeter sleeve behind that ball bearing to right where my thumb is. And then this slides in, so I have a ball bearing support not in the middle. If it's in the middle, this shaft could vibrate and would be right on a node. So you want it off center so that it doesn't want to go in a harmonic. So 3 ball bearings supporting this little 2 millimeter shaft. And here's what I do to seal it. There's a 2 millimeter O-ring, but just barely loose on this 2mm shaft. So it's not really sealing. But what I do is I get some washers that are slightly less than 4mm with a 2mm hole. And as I push this in, I left a long notch here on the shaft. I don't know if this is in the view. I left a long notch here on the shaft so I can push and preload that little O-ring just enough that it'll touch here and seal on the inside of there. So it's basically an O-ring seal. Yes, there is a little bit of drag from it, but you know what? This is not a boat set up for saws. It's a boat set up for convenience, and part of convenience is keeping water out of the boat. So an O-ring on the shaft and 3 ball bearings to support it. So, and of course, I'll move the rudder too. That's my post-run debrief. I'll put this together, and I think next time I'll try this prop. You know what? Part of the reason that got me thinking is I didn't like the sound of this propeller. That's something, you know, you can listen to and you go, oh, this propeller sounds sweet. Oh, this propeller sounds noisy, like it's working too hard. And I didn't like the sound of this propeller. So I'll order a 30mm from Steve. I'll test out the S29 next month. I've always found the S props to be better than the K props in a number of ways. So I'll try the S29 next time out. You guys will see it, and it'll all be good. And until then, jet out. Hey, Jet's back for one or two little quick addenda on my discussion of the RedBird. Remember, it would sometimes self-right and sometimes not self-right. I'm going to just put a little lead weight way out here on this wing. It seems like it's not going to take much, so I'll put a little tire weight out there, you know, and just stick it in with some hot glue, and that might be enough weight to get it to flip, because there's enough air vents. They were facing up, so if water's getting in, air's getting out. So this was filling up. It just didn't have quite enough weight. You saw it the one time it did self-right. It was because it had some forward momentum, and that was causing this to come down a little bit. So I think just a bit of weight out there on the tip. And again, I'm not setting this up for saws, so if I add a half an ounce, that's the price I pay for convenience. The other thing I wanted to bring up was when you're running these ball bearings up in these shafts or in these stuffing tubes, sometimes they get stuck in there. So make a tool. I used that 1/32 music wire. I have a whole lot of it for reasons I shall not go into. And just put a little hook on the end, and just the littlest hook you can that can go in here and hook onto any little part that you happen to have in there. And finally, surveyor's flagging. This thing disappears, but with some surveyor's flagging, it's always easy to find. Just like my action adjustment tool for guitars, a little bit of flagging and you can find it. Otherwise, 30-second music wire disappears. Okay, end of addenda. Once again, jet out.